You're the owner of a small business, which means you're also the tech guy, and HR, and personal assistant, and head honcho, and intern. You could use another pair of hands, like the experts you'll find at Verizon Small Business Days, April 21st through 27th. Get a free tech check, special deals, and more. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness to book your appointment. Verizon Business.
Reality radio for a really great future. We're talking real money.
Bonds. What are they good for? I know some of you think absolutely nothing, but that's not true. Bonds are good for a lot of things, but bonds are very misunderstood. And that's why I decided we should start today's episode talking about bonds. The reason this came to mind is because I was being interviewed today for a print publication that was looking at low-cost mutual funds. And I was asked to defend my choices. And it got me to thinking. One of the reasons people pick bond funds of a particular type is the yield. And that shouldn't be the determinant. Because you can find very high-yielding bond funds, but you probably don't want to own them. Bond funds should not primarily be considered as income generators. For anyone who is trying to build a diversified portfolio for life, bond funds exist primarily to add stability, to reduce volatility. And the income that they pay does help do that. I mean, for example, let's say the Vanguard Total World Stock Index loses 2.5%. Well, with an almost 2.5% income stream, the net comes out to be a zero. So the income helps reduce some of that market volatility. But you want bond funds more for safety. Let the stocks, which have traditionally rewarded you for taking risk, do that. Take the risk. Be the risky portion. Don't try to judge bonds because it's harder to do and you can get into a lot of trouble and you can have something that was highly rated one day and was lower rated the next. No, bonds need to be considered based on their duration, their term, and their credit quality to some extent, but diversification is going to help you out there. So you want a high credit quality bond fund that's all better than triple B or better. But you want a lot of bonds, which is why we love the Vanguard Total Bond Market Index because it has like 17,000 bonds. So if a couple of the lower rated bonds slip down into junk, well, so there's plenty of other stuff to take up the slack. The main thing, though, we're looking for a little bit of a yield, but we're looking more for stability, and that's in the standard deviation. You want a low standard deviation, and the good ones are in the 3 range. The other thing, though, is you want low fees. In bond funds, fees make all the difference. A bond fund with a 0.5% expense ratio has to work a lot harder to get to the same rate. Let's say the bond market, as it is with the Vanguard fund, pays about 2.5%, the investment grade bond market. Well, if you're charging 0.5%, then you're either going to yield 2 or you're going to have to increase the risk to get to that higher return to be competitive. So remember, bond funds exist or should exist in your portfolio to provide stability. That's their purpose. You're going to try and make money with stocks and keep the level of bouncing around comfortable for you by adding in the bonds. Have a question? Give me a call, 855-935-TALK. That's the phone number. You can also send your question either verbally or type it at talkingrealmoney.com/contact. And here's one of the typed versions of the questions. Topic: My parents' financial advisor is suggesting moving their taxable account from Invesco to Franklin Templeton. Hi, Tom and Don. Just Don, sorry. My parents' financial advisor is suggesting moving their taxable account they have with Invesco to a Franklin Templeton account. Does this sound like a good idea? Or should my parents consider Vanguard or Fidelity because of the cheaper fees? Well, I would absolutely positively, ain't no doubt about it, take the latter. Go to Vanguard or Fidelity, get their indexed funds because they're no load and they're cheap, and run away from this financial advisor as fast as their legs will carry them. Because you have a financial advisor who is messing with you to get a commission. This is a bad advisor who I'm sure is a very nice person, but they're bad at heart because they're doing this for the express purpose. If they didn't want another commission, they'd move you to another fund within Invesco Oppenheimer. But no, they're moving you to another fund group. Why? Fresh commission. This advisor is hungry for your parents' money. And even if they say, oh, there's no commission, look at the share class they're selling. My guess is if they say, oh, there's no commission, they're in fact selling C shares, which hide the commission on the backside. In fact, I was recently comparing a Fidelity fund to a Vanguard fund, a bond fund, and the Fidelity bond fund charged 0.025%, and the American fund charged 0.68% on the A shares, which have a 5.75% commission going in, but they charge 1.3 something percent for the C shares. You see, they get the commission one way or another. Thanks for the question. Next up, we have a phone call that was called in on the phone to 855-935-TALK, 855-935-8255. You can also send voice calls via talkingrealmoney.com/contact, or you can type questions in there. So here's the call.
I was just calling. I'm recently thinking about getting out of the government. So I have a TSP and will be transferring to a different job. I was wondering what you guys recommend on taking TSP out and putting it in Vanguard, or leaving it where it is. One of my concerns is the Roth TSP has an RMD, and I'm thinking, well, I know I don't want to leave the Roth as that because I want to leave that to my children. So I want it to grow and grow and grow, but that just concerns me, having the Roth have a RMD in the TSP, and didn't know if you can transfer that straight out into a regular Roth.
While I do like the thrift savings plan, I do like the fees associated with the funds in it, the Roth TSP is different. It does require that you take required minimum distributions. It's just the nature of the goofy beast. So in this case, actually, probably in most cases, I just think you're going to get better diversification with Vanguard at a very, very low fee. But in your case particularly, I would open a Roth IRA at Vanguard and have the assets of the Roth TSP rolled into that. Because, as you mentioned, you want to leave this to the kids. So the way you can do that is through the Roth IRA and not have to take required minimum distributions when you get to retirement. So in your case, I think I would make that switch because there is an advantage to it, and the fees are so close between the two companies anyway, between the two offerings. So I would make the change. I'd go to Vanguard, open a Roth there. Again, numbers 855-935-TALK, or go online talkingrealmoney.com/contact and send in your question. All right, here's our next question. Retirement bucket allocations is the topic. So I'm 54. I'm planning to retire early in 2 years. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? That's just an aside. I plan on using the bucket approach for retirement withdrawals. Sounds like somebody's been listening to Ray Lucia. I also plan on withdrawing from my taxable account first and then my Roth. Now that makes sense. You should do that. Initially, my taxable account will support buckets 1 and 2, and the balance will be in bucket 3. My Roth will be all bucket 3. I know bucket 1 should be cash, CDs, etc., but what do you recommend for asset allocation for buckets 2 and 3? Well, here you go. I am not a big bucket fan. I just don't the concept, it's just kind of gimmicky. What I think you should do is build a portfolio. Bucket 1 shouldn't be called bucket 1. Bucket 1 should be emergency money. The stuff you're going to need to spend in an emergency, and if you're retired, it should be the next year's living expenses. Then I believe buckets 2 and 3 should just be the rest of your portfolio, with the Roth being the last account that is withdrawn from. But yeah, you withdraw first from your taxable, then from your regular IRA, then from your Roth. So the buckets, it can be simpler than this. What you need is the right asset allocation. You need the right asset allocation for your need in retirement and your ability to stand volatility. And this does not need to be a complicated portfolio. It can be as simple as the Vanguard Total World Stock Index and the Vanguard Total Bond Index in whatever proportion is appropriate for your tolerance for volatility. The siloing thing of the buckets, I guess there's a little psychological game going on there. But the reality is you need to manage them as a complete portfolio, because suppose the stock portion of the portfolio goes way up and now you were originally at 60-40, now you're at 70-30. Well, you need that now to rebalance between those two funds, not between two buckets, but between the two funds. So, and it can be a little bit more complex than that. Of course, we build a more complex portfolio for our clients because we use small cap value and small internationals and emerging markets and real estate and all these things. But it can be, literally can be as simple as the Vanguard Total World Stock Index and the Vanguard Total Bond Index. You could also throw in a Vanguard Small Cap or some other things. But bucket 1 should just be, I believe, your next year. And I also believe in a flexible withdrawal system, which generally works out or has worked out pretty well in the past on a 5% withdrawal. In other words, you take the money that's not in your this year's money or the emergency money, but the buckets 2 and 3, and from that next year, the beginning of the year, you withdraw 5% of the value. That's your living expenses for the next year plus your emergency money. You see? It's pretty simple. Because most of us have flexibility in our lives. We can adjust to changes in our income. But you can run those numbers for the 5% withdrawal and run them back in as far as you want in time. And that 5% flexible in any portfolio would have never run you out of money. Now, in a bond portfolio, you would have been drawing it down as rates have been falling, but that's why we have the diversification. Thank you for the question. And please send in yours. Either send them to talkingrealmoney.com/contact and type them in, or speak them there, or call 855-935-TALK. And if you have a more complex question or concern that you would like some help with, let our firm do it. We do this all the time. We help people for free all the time because we don't bug people to become clients, and it's worked out better for us. Maybe we haven't gotten as big and as rich as some of the firms out there, but we feel better. We go to bed at night going, hey, we help people. So we do. We help people. If you want help from one of our advisors, and they will not try and sell you anything, I promise, just go to talkingrealmoney.com or vestory.com, Vestory. That's our firm. And go to the little calendar thing. Set up an appointment. It's free. It's easy. No obligation. No sales pitch. Promise. All right? Thanks for listening. Tell friends. Keep listening. Take good care of yourselves. I'm Don McDonald.
Talking Real Money. We hope you realize that the information provided on Talking Real Money is for educational and hopefully enjoyable purposes only. Providing personalized financial planning or investing advice takes time, so please consult with a really good fee-only fiduciary investment, tax, or legal advisor. We know a good one. Investing must always involve risk. In other words, you can and probably will lose money at times. Also, as much as you want it, no one can accurately, consistently predict the future. So past performance doesn't tell you a darn thing about what the future will bring. Unlike many other programs that say something similar, Talking Real Money is not trying to get you to buy or sell any financial products or securities. Instead, the program is provided as a public service by Vestory, a fee-only registered investment advisor. Thanks for listening, and please visit talkingrealmoney.com for more information and disclosures. Are we done now?